Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast. And, I want to shout out to anybody who is going to, going the extra mile to get their degree. Sometimes this happens, later in life. We get a lot of email, about that and interaction on our socials from,
yes.
Nora's the first person I think of who has gone from, housekeeping, literally in hospital, to she's about to be a certified registered nurse. Mm-hmm. Which is really just, it's impressive. And
one of our Keep the Wows this week, going back to school.
And Jodi and our oldest daughter, Taylor, who's, still in that space right now, she's at the age of that, is going for her master's in psychology. And the master's is in, technically it's education. It's the degree to become a licensed professional counselor. It's a slightly different path than becoming a clinical social worker. And so, she's been all about this since she was small, and as she's going through the classes in these semesters that she's doing, she shares a whole lot of stuff with me and Jodi.
When she comes home just to visit, to eat a hamburger, to pick up an old coat she had in a closet, I get a mental health lesson. And she doesn't mean to do it, but she's just that person. You ever been around a person that they sprinkle a little bit of their, essence everywhere, and you feel better for it when they've gone? She's that person.
Sharing the info, or is she analyzing you too?
She doesn't analyze us.
No,
but
she doesn't.
Knows
it's
us.
really, she doesn't have to. She's grown up with us, But, and obviously we've talked about that before on the podcast. My point in bringing this one up is really my personal experience with, with counseling. And, so coming up, and now I just remembered, it's so funny, before we started, to give you behind the scenes here on the podcast, before we got started, I couldn't remember why and where I was going with this. It just hit me, the reason that I wanted to bring this up, because this year in April, it'll be 10 years since my mom passed away. Yesterday was my dad's birthday, as y'all know, and my late dad's birthday. So I've lost both of them. It just caused me to think, and I was trying to remember back, when did I really embrace, having counseling on a regular basis? Well, really, the first go-round with it was, when I was first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and it was just recommended. I was not anti-counseling by any stretch of the imagination.
No, you were anti-diabetes.
Yeah, right, exactly, which was the reason for the counseling.
Yes.
And my first counselor, Andrea, was awesome. She was also a type 1 diabetic, and she was very, very straight up. I don't know, I learned a lot about counseling and myself, from her. But then she ultimately retired. And when she exited, I stopped going to counseling. I thought I was done. You know what I mean? It's in my head, it was okay. I mean, once you've solved the problem, you don't need to go to the counseling anymore. But I see it so differently now that, I've spent time with it. So after my mom passed, as you can imagine, there were a lot of different, it was very sudden. My mom was not in poor health, or we didn't think she was. It was a very sudden heart attack. One day she's there, the next day she's gone. The last time I had actually spoken with her, I guess on the phone, I'd talked with her a week before.
Yes.
Last time I'd seen her was 2 weeks before. And so it's just all those things that come up, when someone passes. And Jodi noticed that I was having, issues with that. So I took it upon myself to go back to counseling again. And I think because a lot of it was like traumatic events tend to do. Mm-hmm. They make you lash out. They make you angry when you don't want to be, those kinds of things. And so it was a smart move for me to get back into counseling. So I've had the same counselor now for 10 years. I don't miss, it's, and the reason I'm sharing this is for anybody that's never had counseling, professional counseling, or hesitant to do it, or, or wondering, I don't feel like sharing, or I don't feel like going there, or like once I'm done, I'm done. Or if you think you got to solve a problem, it's so much more than that. I'm very complex, and a lot of what I do in my life is self-imposed. Now, I don't mean necessarily in a negative way. I actually love, and I've learned to embrace, who I am over the years. I'm excessive. I'm compulsive. I'm not satisfied. Well, I'm very satisfied in my marriage, Jodi. But anyway, because to me the world keeps changing.
I was just saying, I know what you mean exactly when you say excessive. Yeah.
And so, but the world keeps changing, and I want to change right along with it. So I'm not the kind of person who wants to get up to a place in my life where I coast. I want to enjoy and I want to relax. but I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping until I physically can't do it anymore, because the day that you do stop and figure it's time to throttle back, you're going to get what you choose to do, you know? And so there's a whole lot of junk that's going on, you know, up in my head, bouncing around almost all the time. And this is where I wanted to go with this is, you know, I was concerned, and I may have had this conversation with Taylor, I was concerned that familiarity would become an issue over time by keeping the same counselor. It's like, okay, so you know everything, we've talked about everything. At some point, it's like, is the advice going to keep coming? Is that, you know, I mean, am I still going to get the benefits of it? And I realize now what that is. The biggest benefit of it is, even just because I'm doing it every 3 weeks now, is summing up, rolling the credits like we're talking about in the show, or whatever, on what's happened in the last, you know, couple of weeks. It's like this massive brain dump. So what it's forcing me to do is, it's like a mental journal almost.
Yeah.
Of talking about, you know, my wins or the concerns that I have or whatever. It's, you know, it's not overly heavy. Very rarely is it heavy. Yes, there have been some, you know, problems that I've bumped into that I've had to navigate that you love to hear, you know, you hear the feedback on. But I think the biggest benefit is that we forget, especially when we get busy, we become less social. And you know what I mean? And unless you're busy is in a social way. What I mean by that is, if your task list is so long and you're so focused on everything and that's what you're trying to tackle and wrap your arms around, you're sealing yourself off from the rest of the world. And isolation is never a good thing under any circumstances. I mean, it's basic psychology shows you lack of socialization creates its own set of problems. And the biggest of that being that when we are in our own heads, we can lose context real quick, because we're sealed off from everything. We become in our own universe. We're in our own head, and
you're only turning to yourself for advice.
Yeah, which, you know, and
really
the thing
cyclical.
Is, and you cannot really see yourself clearly, especially when you're in a stressful time period in your life, or going through something that's, you know, traumatic. And it's okay to feel those feelings, and it is totally okay to have somebody that you trust to have those conversations with. And so for 10 years now, it's been one of the most balanced, wonderful, you know, relationships, because he's definitely somebody that I consider to be a friend, but he's an incredible professional and just maintains that, you know, that distance between. So I actually, when I drive up on some days and go, it's like, why did I keep this appointment? I'm exhausted. I don't have time for this today. I've been doing this forever. Do I really need to do this today? And then you just go forward and sit down, and somehow an hour later, it's paid off. Mm-hmm. Even if there's no specific advice, I don't walk in there looking for solutions anymore. I walk in there just to be and work through things.
It's one of the most beautiful things in the world, because you can't do that with a friend and it be just without any implications.
Yeah.
You know, with a friend, if you always do that, then you're the person that always does that, you know, and a friend is not unbiased, and a friend is not educated in the ways to help you see things. It is really one of the most beautiful things in the world. Every person on the planet could and should go to therapy, period. That's what I really think. And it's funny because Taylor's, if she were hearing this, she'd be like, yeah. But she's right. And so it's beautiful that you realize that sometimes it doesn't have to be some major breakthrough. We see that in the movies, you know, and you see a major breakthrough, and that's the whole point of the story. And you probably have had some breakthroughs in there, but
I've had some huge breakthroughs.
But sometimes when you're in there, it's a benefit you don't even realize that you just visiting. But it also has built the trust and built the relationship. And sure, you two have put in the time to where he really knows you. So when there have been difficult things in your past, there will be difficult things in your future, and you may need him for a big event or for a big moment in the future that you just don't even know about yet.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you have the safe space.
Yeah.
That's what Taylor always says. Everybody needs a safe space that doesn't have other strings attached, like family. Even your best friend, there are strings attached. There are expectations and feelings, not with a licensed, certified, therapist.
Yeah. and his clinical notes are always accurate. He always remembers where we left off from. He always remembers to follow up on some things that I would have forgotten up, to ask about. But, what you're saying about friends is so true. And, I mean, some of the greatest friends in the world, you being my absolute best friend, Jodi, who I trust, completely, and who knows everything about me anyway, is many of your friends, and sometimes even your mentors will do this. They'll filter some things. Now, I have one mentor who I love, who's, also one of my greatest friends of all time, Mark.
Yes.
Who is always honest about absolutely everything. And I love that. He knows how to say something that won't intentionally hurt, but you're going to get the truth from him. You're not going to get some sort of caged, filtered, answer. Yeah. But not everybody, is like that, and it's fine. I'm sure I filter myself around, my friends on things that you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, and you're trying to support them through something,
But a therapist doesn't have to do that.
That's correct. Right. Exactly.
Because of the trappings of a relationship. They don't have a trappings of a relationship with you.
Yeah.
Personal question. Before you started therapy other years ago, did you consider it a weakness to go to?
That's a good question. That's
a great question.
A little perspective here. I never went to therapy. I started back in my 30s. But before that, I always considered it a sign of weakness. Mm-hmm. I can do it myself. Same thing with medication for depression, anxiety, stuff like that. I don't need that. I can work this out myself. And, stuck on that until I finally went to a therapist, to a counselor. And then it was like, eyes were opened.
Yeah,
it's like I have no problem on medication. Give me whatever to set me straight. Let me talk to whoever I need to talk to set me straight. Yeah. It's like a complete 180. But like, were you like that too? Like,
So I think we're in the age right now, which I love. It's by far less stigmatized than it ever was. It shouldn't have been, and part of it's probably the nickname problems of the past, calling them shrinks. And there was a time where it was perceived that only the wealthiest people would go to get counseling. My mom was she was a bit of a control freak, and she was concerned about somebody brainwashing. And so that was kind of, but that, I don't know that I ever had that. It was never a thing of weakness for me, but what you just described just now is the same reason that you and I don't drink anymore. It's control. The moment you think that you're controlling everything, and it doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are, by the way, but the moment that you think that you're in control of everything is the moment that you actually are not. And
same is true with mental health then.
That exactly. And so and I love that. There's no shame in that, and I think that it's been a long time coming, and I think it's been here for a while, but Gen Z is the champion of this right now.
Definitely.
And they're the ones that actually are going, okay, there's a little too much tech in our lives right now, and they were raised on tech, and too much going on.
They want our childhood.
and so they really want, and because they are so deep in social media with everything from shopping to source of news and all that, like that, it would overwhelm anybody. It does overwhelm everybody. And so a focus on that it's not just, a trendy talking point for today. It's, it's not stigmatized. And I guess where I was going with that is the longevity part. Because I think at some point I always thought, well, I'll stop when I don't need it anymore. Yeah. But I realize now, he's a partner in my success in life, in some way, and it's a good investment of time. It's a good investment of money. It's a good investment of everything.
Something that Taylor did teach me recently too. We're having a conversation about some of the classes she's studying right now, like group therapy and family therapy and children. Counseling adolescents is one of her courses this semester. We were just talking about it in general, and she said something, and I loved this. You're talking about a long relationship with a therapist. Your decade here. You've got a decade with him. And I told her my story because years ago, I was having an issue with a family member, a surprise that had come my way personally that I had trouble accepting. And you remember this, that I went to a counselor for a short period of time to sort of sort it out. And then when I was done, and I say done, I had gotten a lot out of it from her. She was wonderful, and she helped me see things more clearly. I was sitting there one day, and I told her, I feel like I have the clarity that I needed and what I came here for, and I would like to just stop coming for now. And I said that almost with apology, and she was like, great. And I told Taylor that story, and Taylor totally said, that is correct, too.
Yeah.
You can 100% show up and get what you need. You can start and stop as you need. You know, there's no... There's
no hard. It's the most personal thing that there is. So there's no hard and fast rule for anybody.
No. Now, I mean, a lot of times a therapist will say, "I do want you to keep coming." I do think, and if their real clinical thought is that you do need it, they should say that to you. But don't feel like you're being sold it. Taylor was just like, you get to drive the bus for your mental health.
Yeah.
You know, she suggests you drive to a therapist and spend that time, but you can start and stop as you need, is what she said.
And the therapist, if it's a serious enough situation, they're going to say, I want to start seeing you every week.
Right.
And to me, when I get told that, or when I got told that, it's like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, and it's obviously a lot of work needs to be done.
Yeah.
And then you do get to the point, hopefully, where it's like,
you can breathe.
Murphy, every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
It is something you get to drive. You're the one that lives with you. You live with yourself 24 hours a day. You know whether you are feeling right or not.
Yeah.
And so drive the bus accordingly.
Yeah, exactly. To me, that's the important. The reason I wanted to share that is because, again, as long as I've been doing this, I had at some point along the way, I had a preconceived notion that I'm glad that I ignored, because in my case, this is actually what's, working great. And you're right, it's not going to be for everybody. But, for anybody that still has tried to wrangle the situation, like Sam was saying, you've tried to do it all yourself. There's nothing wrong with seeking somebody that you trust to begin to have those conversations. And if that person's not a fit for you, then you move on to the next person or whatever it is that, you need to do. But there's zero stigma about it today. And, it's, I think anytime we retreat back into our own heads, which is very easy for me to do because it's how my brain works, it's the maintenance part of it. It's like maintenance on a vehicle or anything else. It's that 3 weeks. It's almost like a 3-week checkup that realigns me. And sometimes I can't even tell you why I feel more clear coming out of it. I don't know. We can tackle any major problems or anything. I'm just clear,
It's a touch tone that you need.
Yeah.
That you depend on.
I always felt clear, whether I got advice or not. I always felt clear because it was off my chest.
Correct.
Yeah.
I just like blah,
which is really what
you don't get judged. It's just
it's psychological magic.
Talk therapy is really. Because sometimes what you're doing is you're actually hearing what you're saying versus it being just silent in your mind, and it's weird how verbalizing can suddenly start to work something or give you a perspective.
It gives it life. And with someone else who can help. And their job is not to tell you what you should do.
Right.
It's to help you get to a place.
Yeah.
They're literally just guiding you. You're doing the work.
Yes.
But you need the guide.
Yeah. So wanted to share that. We didn't want it to be too heavy of a podcast. It's almost serious,
okay.
More serious than than we get, but an important share. So shout out to therapists. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for investing what you do in your training and the extra education that you get and licensing to do what you do. You make a big difference, and and Taylor's going to be joining the ranks.
Speaking of Taylor, I know she likes to listen to these podcasts.
She might be listening.
And when we talk about therapy and stuff like that, we always get some kind of feedback.
Oh, she'll.
So I want to know what she has to say about this one.
Like, I got news for you. She's ready to do another podcast with us.
Oh.
If anytime soon. Her school schedule keeps her very, very busy, but she does love to talk mental health. So we'll do that one again soon.
Subscribe to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast. Free and easy.